Hey there. So, since Green Lantern Guy Gardner appeared in the new Superman movie, I thought now would be a good time to take a look at his first appearance here in Green Lantern Volume 2, number 59. And this is from 1968. We've got a nice cover here by Gil Kane and Murphy Anderson, I believe, was the inker on this. And we've got Guy Gardner here holding the power battery and kind of standing over Hal Jordan here. Again, we don't know who this is yet. It's just, this new character that's being introduced here. When F1rst was dying and chose Hal Jordan to be his successor, there was another person on Earth who could have been Green Lantern. That's kind of what the story is of Guy Gardner here. So we've got this nice big splash page here. Again, big believer in the splash page. So we've got Hal Jordan here, like in his civilian identity, talking to the reader. And we have this new guy here in a Green Lantern outfit fighting Sonar and Sinestro and, Shark and Black Hand here. So again, villains we're familiar with that, Hal Jordan fights. I want to say, too, we've got this burst here in the background. We've got this real nice kind of technique going through here. I assume that's inker Sid Green doing that. So we've got the story here by John Broome, and then the pencils by Gil Kane and inks by Sid Green. So yeah, we've got this really nice effect here. I'm not sure if that's like a Conte crayon kind of thing. I'm also wondering how much is going on here with sort of the printing technique of the time. And so like what effect the screens might be having on this. Because it doesn't really read as ink splatter to me. So yeah, I'd be real interested to see this original art if it still exists somewhere. Just to kind of see how they're making these marks here, because this is an effect that we'll see throughout the story too, that's used through the art. But here we cut to Oa, and the Guardians are basically having like a seminar with the Green Lanterns, and the Guardians tell Hal about this machine they have that records memories, and it can even store memories after death. And so they're like, hey, do you want to see F1rst's memories? And so this was the Green Lantern that passed away and passed his ring on to Hal. So, everybody kind of knows F1rst is tied into the origin of Hal Jordan, but what you sometimes forget is they didn't really know each other outside of this encounter. So, like, they weren't buddies or anything like that. Hal Jordan really didn't know this guy that gave him the ring. So, Hal starts to watch the machine, and then it cuts to, we've basically got a retelling here of Hal Jordan's origin. So we have F1rst here, and him telling the ring to find someone worthy. Now, what's different that we haven't heard before at Hal Jordan's origin is that the ring tells him there are two deserving people. One is Guy Gardner, an instructor in a school, and the other is test pilot Hal Jordan. So this is kind of proceeds as we know Hal Jordan's origin. We have him in the flight simulator here that gets taken to F1rst, and again the whole thing of like, how'd he crash a flight simulator kind of thing. But this is pretty much just like a retelling of Hal Jordan's origin as we know it. At least the Silver Age version of it. And then Hal is talking to the Guardians. He's like, well, hey, what about that other guy? What happened to him? And so then the Guardians tell him they can recalibrate the machine to kind of show sort of like a what-if kind of scenario where Guy Gardner gets chosen instead of him. So now we get, sort of an origin story for Guy Gardner. We have him in the more traditional Green Lantern outfit, which again, we don't really see him with once he ends up joining the Green Lanterns in real life. And again, we never really see him with a mask. So that's kind of interesting seeing, Gil Kane drawing Guy Gardner here in his first appearance. He decides to take the ring and bust up some saboteurs. And then it kind of goes on to like, he has like his own career as Green Lantern. So we have him fighting all these, different familiar villains. We've got Sonar, the Shark, Black Hand, Dr. Polaris, and, Sinestro here even. And then as they continue to watch what would have happened to Guy Gardner had he become GL, we have a little caption here saying that, like, after all this, then the Guardians summon him back to Oa to kind of give him training and kind of go over everything with him. I feel like that's really later than it should be. I feel like at this point, Guy Gardner kind of knows what he's doing, you would think, if he's fought Sinestro even. But then we have him going back to Earth. And again, if you look at see if we can show this on screen here. So here in the background of space, we have that same kind of effect that was on the splash page. Again, it could be like a charcoal something. But yeah, again, a really interesting mark I like that it's kind of throughout here. I don't know if that was something that Sid Green did a lot of, but it's kind of interesting seeing it in the story here. But on his way back to Earth, and Hal Jordan says, oh, I don't really take that way back to Earth. Guy Gardner's going, the back roads or something through space. He sees something going on in this planet, and he goes to check it out. There's these two giant robots fighting. They attack Guy Gardner, so he gets involved in the conflict here. I got a big ad for the Creeper here. It looks like it was about to come out. Guy Gardner kind of finds out here that there are no adults left on this planet. It's just kids. And so the kids are staging these elaborate war games where they have different robots from an orange and a blue side, and they're fighting each other all the time. And so it's just become this constant state of conflict with these kids just for their entertainment, basically. And yeah, we have that same kind of effect here in the background in the sky. Again, this makes me think it's almost like a Conte crayon there maybe or something. We got it in the background of a lot of these shots over these pages. But while Guy Gardner goes to check out what's going on, the kids are able to kind of telepathically take control of him. And so in sort of like a Twilight Zone kind of thing, the kids are kind of treating him, they think he's a robot or something like that. And they're like, oh, so this is the blue group of children. And they're like, we're going to go send him to attack the orange side. And so he goes off, he fights some of their robots and different things. And then there's a submarine that he attacks, and we've got this, big arm construct here. And he's trying to figure out how to get out of control of the kids. These other giant robots that he's fighting. And then the orange side, they try to take control of him. And so finally he's able to create this power ring armor. And again, this is definitely a Gil Kane design here. Sort of a different thing. I'm surprised we haven't gotten an action figure or something of that. But yeah, this just kind of interesting suit of armor that Guy Gardner makes with his ring here. So finally he gets the kids to kind of settle their differences here and declare peace. And so it was a virus that had eliminated the adults and has been keeping the kids from aging. So Guy kind of fixes that with his ring before he leaves. He gets back to Earth to recharge his ring. And what's interesting here is Guy Gardner has a different oath than Hal Jordan. So again, typically it's sort of a given that all of the Green Lanterns have the same identical oath that they use. But Guy Gardner in this story has a different one. And so, yeah, that's his oath there. So let's just see. So it's on worlds afar or scenes at home, wherever the cause should make me roam. Always I vow to fight the good fight, to combat evil with all Green Lantern's might. So yeah, so different from Alan Scott's original oath, different from Hal Jordan's. This might be the only time that oath was used, I'm not sure. But then, back on Earth, Guy Gardner realizes he has caught this plague that affected everybody on this planet he went to, and it's yellow, so he can't fix it with the ring. So he realizes he's going to die here, so he has the ring call out to choose a successor, and so the ring brings him Hal Jordan now. So, even in this story, even had Guy Gardner become Green Lantern, Hal Jordan still would have found his way back to being Green Lantern. Kind of back to the, real world. Hal talks to the Guardians about Guy Gardner and says, hey, I might look this guy up in real life. And the Guardians say they don't have a problem with that. So Hal finds Guy Gardner at an athletic club, and they become friends for a minute. As Hal says his goodbye, he says he's going to keep in touch with him, and that, he's sure he'll see him again later. So yeah, sort of like a what-if kind of story. I don't know if there was ever any intention when this story was made to bring Guy Gardner back. What kind of happened later on was there was a point where Hal Jordan needed a replacement, and so Guy Gardner was selected. And I think he found out that he was sort of the second choice back in the day, and so I think that was part of what led to the character having such a chip on his shoulder later on that became a big part of his character. Yeah, we don't really see Guy Gardner in the sort of traditional Green Lantern uniform, So it's kind of interesting seeing that here. And of course, seeing him drawn by Gil Kane is interesting. So that's the first appearance of Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, and, you know, sort of like a, you know, what could have been type of story. Again, this probably would be like a multiverse story now, or like, you know, Green Lantern of Earth 2, or, well, Earth 3 or 4, who knows what back then. Maybe not the best comic or most notable one of him, but this is where he comes from. This is where he first appeared. Now, DC did do a facsimile edition with some variant covers a while back, so you could probably still find one of those pretty reasonably if you want to read this yourself. I'm pretty sure it's on the DC app too, though, if you want to check it out there. Have you read this? Do you have a favorite Guy Gardner story? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter/X @Detective651, also on Instagram @Detective651. Be sure to check out my t-shirt store at tpublic.com/user/Detective651. I've got a lot of nerdy designs on there, and there's sales all the time, so check it out frequently.